Welcome back to Whispers After Midnight, the place where the internet's darkest stories come to life. Tonight's video features a collection of creepy Reddit stories, subscriber submissions, chilling folklore, and classic creepypasta. The kinds of stories best listened to with the lights low and the doors locked. Quick disclaimer: these stories come from online sources and submissions. There's no proof they're real, but that doesn't make them any less disturbing. Before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy scary stories like these. It really helps the channel grow. And if you have a creepy experience or story idea, leave it in the comments. Your story might appear in a future episode. Now, turn the lights down, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let the whispers begin. Part 1. My name is Nathan Cole, and this happened in 2020 when I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. At the time, I was 28 and working remotely as a freelance programmer. Most of my work involved fixing bugs in websites or building small apps for companies that didn't want to hire full-time developers. It paid well enough, but it also meant I spent a lot of time alone in my apartment staring at screens. When I wasn't working, I usually watched documentaries, played games, or browsed random corners of the internet. And like a lot of people who spend too much time online, I eventually became curious about the dark web. Not for anything illegal or extreme. Mostly forums, privacy discussions, cybersecurity topics. The same kinds of things tech people tend to explore. But there was one topic that kept coming up again and again: red rooms. If you've never heard of them, the idea is simple and disturbing. Supposedly, they're secret live streams where viewers can pay cryptocurrency to watch, or even influence terrible things happening to someone on camera. Every article I read said the same thing, though. There was no proof they actually existed. Most people believed they were just an internet myth. Still, the mystery stuck in my head. One night around 1:30 a.m., I was browsing a forum dedicated to strange dark web rumors when someone posted a link. The title of the thread was simple: Red Room, Live Tonight. Normally, posts like that were obvious scams, but something about this one was different. The account that posted it had been active on the forum for years. Hundreds of posts, good reputation, not some random throwaway. The message itself was short. Live stream begins at 2 a.m. Entry fee required. Underneath the message was a long encrypted address. People in the comments were already arguing. Fake. Another scam. Probably malware. But one comment caught my attention. A user simply wrote, "Someone should record it." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Curiosity got the better of me. I copied the link. When I opened it through a secure browser, a plain black page loaded. In the center was a countdown timer. 0 hours, 23 minutes, 14 seconds. Below it was a payment address. Entry fee, $50 in cryptocurrency. My stomach tightened slightly. This was probably just some elaborate troll, but the curiosity was already there. So I paid the fee. The page refreshed immediately. A message appeared. Access granted. Below the countdown was a small video window, still black. The timer continued ticking down. As the minutes passed, the page slowly began filling with usernames. Other viewers, people logging in, watching, waiting. By the time the timer hit 5 minutes, There were already over 300 users connected. My chest felt tight. This was either the most elaborate scam I had ever seen, or something much worse. Finally, the countdown reached 0. The video window flickered. Then the live stream turned on. The camera showed a dimly lit concrete room, bare walls, a single chair in the middle of the floor, and someone sitting in it. Their hands tied behind their back, a black hood covering their head. The chat exploded instantly, messages flying across the screen. Then a voice spoke from somewhere behind the camera. Calm, cold. "Welcome to the show." That's when I realized something terrifying. The viewer count was still climbing. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen. The camera quality wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough to see the room. Concrete floor, bare walls, a single industrial light hanging from the ceiling that swung slightly, casting moving shadows across the scene. The person in the chair barely moved. Their head hung forward under the black hood. My heart started beating faster. This had to be staged. Some kind of creepy performance to scare people into donating more money. That was the only explanation that made sense. The chat beside the video was flying by so fast, it was hard to read. Hundreds of usernames, people posting messages like, "Is this real? Start already. This better not be fake." Then the voice behind the camera spoke again. "You've all paid for access," the voice said calmly. "Now you get to participate." The chat exploded. More usernames began appearing as new viewers joined. The number in the corner of the screen jumped from 327 viewers to 402 to 517 in less than a minute. My stomach started to feel uneasy. A gloved hand entered the frame and grabbed the person in the chair by the shoulder, forcing them to sit upright. Even through the hood, I could see they were breathing heavily. The person was alive. The voice continued. "Tonight's experience is interactive." A panel appeared beneath the video window. 4 buttons, each with a different option, each with a cryptocurrency price next to it. My chest tightened as I read them. Lights off, $10. Remove hood, $50. Ask question, $100. Special request, $500. The chat lost its mind. Messages flooded the screen. Remove the hood. Turn off the lights. This is insane. I felt sick just looking at it. People were already clicking the options. A counter beside each button started increasing as viewers paid. The remove hood option climbed the fastest. Then suddenly the counter hit its limit. The button flashed. The voice behind the camera chuckled. "Well, the audience has spoken." The gloved hand stepped forward again. Slowly, it grabbed the black hood and pulled it off. A young man's face was revealed, maybe early 20s. His eyes were wide with panic, darting around the room. His mouth was taped shut. The chat exploded even faster now. Some people were typing laughing emojis. Others were asking questions. My stomach turned. This wasn't funny. This wasn't entertainment. This looked terrifyingly real. The man in the chair tried to speak through the tape, but only muffled sounds came out. His eyes scanned the room desperately. Then suddenly, he looked straight at the camera, right into the lens. And I swear, for just a second, it looked like he was staring directly at me. Another option appeared on the screen. Camera close-up, $25. The counter started rising immediately. Hundreds of payments. Within seconds, the number maxed out. The camera slowly moved forward. Closer. Closer. The man's face filled the screen. Tears were running down his cheeks now. The voice behind the camera spoke again. Let's make things more interesting. Another panel appeared. But this time, instead of options, there was a poll, and the choices made my stomach drop. Leave him tied up. Cut the tape. Punish him. My hand moved toward the mouse. Not to vote. To close the page. But right before I could click out of the stream, the young man in the chair suddenly started shaking his head violently, like he was trying to warn someone. Then he leaned forward as far as the ropes would allow and slammed the chair against the floor. The camera jerked slightly. The voice behind the camera sounded irritated, but that wasn't what froze me. What froze me was the background, because when the camera moved, I recognized something behind the man. A wall with a large painted number on it, Bay 14. And I knew exactly where I had seen that before, at the shipping warehouse 2 blocks from my apartment. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The words on the wall behind him kept replaying in my head. Bay 14. I knew that place. About 2 blocks from my apartment, there was an old shipping warehouse district that had been mostly abandoned for years. A few storage companies still used parts of it, but most of the building sat empty behind chain-link fences and rusted loading docks. And one of those loading docks had a giant number painted on the wall. 14. I had walked past it dozens of times. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. This wasn't somewhere far away. This was happening right near me. The live stream chat was still flying by, people arguing, laughing, sending money. The poll numbers were climbing fast. Leave him tied up, 118 votes. Cut the tape, 42 votes. Punish him, 203 votes. My stomach twisted. I slammed my hand on the keyboard and opened another browser window. If this was actually happening near me, I couldn't just sit there watching. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. When the operator answered, my words came out rushed. I think someone's being held hostage at a warehouse near my apartment. The operator immediately asked for the address. I told her everything I knew while keeping the live stream open on my second monitor. Meanwhile, the poll ended. The result flashed on the screen. Punish him. Selected. The chat erupted. The gloved man stepped into view again. He picked up something from a table just outside the camera frame. I couldn't see what it was. My chest tightened. The operator on the phone asked another question. Sir, how do you know someone is being held there? I glanced back at the screen. Because I'm watching it happen right now. She paused. You're watching it? It's a live stream, I said, on a dark website. The operator stayed calm. Officers are being dispatched to the area. Stay on the line. On my monitor, the man behind the camera moved closer to the chair. The victim struggled against the ropes again. The gloved figure leaned down near his ear like he was whispering something. Then, he looked toward the camera. For a second, I felt like he was staring straight through the screen, like he somehow knew someone out there was watching who shouldn't be. The voice spoke again. Looks like the audience wants more. My heart pounded. In the corner of the stream, the viewer count had passed 1,200 people. Suddenly, the camera angle shifted. The person filming walked across the room for a second, and for a brief moment, the camera pointed toward a window. Through the dirty glass, I could see something outside. Flashing lights. Red and blue. Police. My chest filled with relief. The person holding the camera noticed too. He turned the camera back toward the chair quickly. The victim had seen the lights too. His eyes widened. Hope. For the first time since the stream started, he looked hopeful. Outside the warehouse, I could hear sirens through my open apartment window now. They were getting closer. The person behind the camera cursed under his breath. The live stream chat started exploding again. What's happening? Cops? This is real? The camera moved quickly toward the victim. The gloved hand grabbed the hood from the floor. For a second, I thought he was going to cover the victim's face again. But instead, he turned the camera toward himself. Just for a second, a black mask, dark hoodie, only his eyes visible. Then the stream suddenly cut to black. The page refreshed. One final message appeared on the screen. Stream ended. For a few seconds, I just stared at the black screen. The live stream was gone. The chat window disappeared. The entire page refreshed and returned to the original login screen like nothing had ever happened. My heart was still pounding. On the phone, the 911 operator was still talking. Sir, officers are arriving at the location now. Stay on the line. I rushed to my apartment window. From my third-floor balcony, I could see the warehouse district 2 blocks away. Red and blue lights were flashing across the dark buildings, reflecting off the metal roofs and loading docks. Police cars were everywhere. At least 6 of them. A moment later, I saw officers running toward one of the buildings. Warehouse 14. The same place from the stream. My chest tightened while I watched. For a few minutes, everything looked chaotic. Officers moving in, flashlights sweeping through broken windows and loading bays. Then finally, an ambulance pulled up. 2 paramedics rushed inside. A few minutes later, they came back out with someone on a stretcher. Even from that distance, I could tell it was the same man from the live stream. His hands were still tied in front of him, but he was alive. The relief hit me so hard, I had to sit down. The operator finally said, Sir, officers may want to speak with you later, since you reported this. Of course, I said. I barely slept that night. Update. The next day, police contacted me and asked me to come in and explain what I had seen. Apparently, when officers arrived at the warehouse, the suspect had already fled through a back exit. They searched the building, but didn't find him. What they did find was the room from the live stream. Camera equipment, lights, tripods, everything. Exactly the way it appeared on the stream. The man who had been tied to the chair survived and was taken to the hospital. According to investigators, he had been missing for nearly 2 days. The police also confirmed something else that shocked me. The live stream website disappeared completely less than an hour after the raid. Like it had never existed. No records, no active servers, nothing. To this day, they still haven't caught the person who was behind the camera. But sometimes when I think about that night, one thing still bothers me. Right before the stream ended, when the masked man turned the camera toward himself, his eyes didn't look scared. They looked calm, like he already knew he would get away. And honestly, After seeing how quickly everything vanished from the internet, I'm starting to think he was right. My name is Eli Carter, and this happened in 2021, the summer right after I graduated high school in Tampa, Florida. At the time, I was trying to become a content creator, not a huge influencer or anything like that. Just a guy streaming late at night, talking to whoever happened to be awake. I had around 10 regular followers who showed up almost every stream. It wasn't much, but I liked the interaction. Most nights I streamed games or reacted to weird internet videos. Nothing special. Just something to do while I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. The night everything happened, I couldn't sleep. It was around 2:15 a.m. and the house was quiet. My parents were asleep, my younger brother was asleep, and I was wide awake staring at the ceiling. So I did what I always did. I started a live stream. I sat down at my desk, turned on my camera, and went live. "All right," I said, rubbing my eyes. "Late night stream because I can't sleep." The viewer counter slowly climbed to its usual number. 8, then 10. My regulars were already in the chat. "Bro, you're always awake. Play something. Watch creepy stuff." I laughed. "Honestly, I've got nothing planned tonight," I told them. "Give me ideas." For a while, we just talked. People suggested random things, watch scary videos, play horror games, react to conspiracy theories. Then someone in chat posted something different. A username I didn't recognize. Night Watcher. Their message said, "Go on the dark web." The chat exploded instantly. "Do it." "No way. Bro, don't." I laughed. "Relax," I said. The dark web isn't some horror movie. I knew a little about it already, mostly from tech forums and documentaries. Still, I had never actually shown it on stream before, and my viewers were clearly interested. "All right," I said finally. "Let's explore a little." The chat started moving faster. I opened my browser and started setting up a secure environment. I explained everything while I did it. What the dark web actually was, how it worked, why people used it. At first, the stream was just educational. Forums, weird marketplaces, encrypted chat boards. Nothing dramatic. But something strange started happening. The viewer count kept climbing. 20 viewers, then 50, then 100. People were clearly sharing the stream. The chat kept filling with new usernames. "This is actually interesting. Keep going." "Check the markets." I leaned back in my chair. "All right," I said. "Let's see what people are selling." Most of the marketplaces were exactly what you'd expect. Illegal stuff, fake documents, stolen electronics. I clicked through a few listings, explaining things while the chat kept moving faster and faster. Then I opened a marketplace I hadn't seen before. The page loaded slowly. Black background, minimal design, just a list of categories. One category caught my eye immediately. Private rooms. My stomach tightened. "What is that?" someone in chat asked. "I have no idea," I admitted. The viewer count was now at over 800 people, way more than I had ever streamed to before. I clicked the category. The page refreshed, and what appeared on the screen made my heart sink. Rows of listings. Each one had a photo of a girl. Next to each photo was a price, thousands of dollars. The descriptions were short. Private meeting. Delivery available? Exclusive access. The chat suddenly slowed down. Everyone was reading. Someone typed, Is that what I think it is? My stomach felt heavy. Yeah, I said quietly. It looks like human trafficking. The chat exploded, people spamming messages. Call the police. This is insane. Report it. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I knew shutting the stream off wouldn't help, but just watching it felt wrong too. Then someone in the chat donated $50. The message popped up on screen. Expose them. Another donation appeared, then another. Within minutes, the donations started pouring in. People wanted me to keep digging. The viewer count passed 2,000 people, then 5,000. My tiny late-night stream had suddenly turned into something huge. More donations popped up. Buy access. Get proof. Expose the operation. My heart was racing. I'm not buying anything, I said quickly. Then a huge donation alert popped up on the screen. $5,000. The message attached read, "Do it. Save someone." The chat went wild. More donations started appearing. $100, $200, $500. Within 30 minutes, the total donation counter on my stream reached something unbelievable. $60,000. I sat there staring at the number. My hands were shaking slightly. The chat kept scrolling. Buy one. Rescue her. We're with you. I took a deep breath. This might be the dumbest idea I've ever had, I said. Then I opened one of the listings. My mouse hovered over the listing. The entire chat was moving so fast, it was almost impossible to read. The viewer count in the corner of my stream had climbed past 9,000 people. That was insane. Less than an hour earlier, I had been talking to 10 regular viewers about random internet stuff. Now, thousands of people were watching. And they were all staring at the same screen I was. The listing I opened showed a photo of a girl who looked maybe 19 or 20 years old. She was sitting in what looked like a small room with plain white walls, no windows, just a mattress behind her. The description was short. Private meeting. Verified. Price. $25,000. My stomach turned. This is messed up, I said quietly into the mic. The chat exploded again. Buy it. Rescue her. We've got the money. Expose them. Another donation popped up. $500. Save her. Another one. $200. Do it live. My donation counter still showed over $60,000 sitting there. Money people had sent in just the last 30 minutes. I rubbed my face and leaned back in my chair. All right, I said slowly. Listen, if I do this, it's not to meet anyone. The chat slowed slightly as people listened. It's to get information, I continued. Proof, something we can give to the police. Messages started flooding in again. Yes, get their location. We're watching. I took a deep breath. Then I clicked Buy Access. The page redirected to a payment screen. Cryptocurrency only. I explained what I was doing step by step for the stream while transferring the funds from the donation wallet. My hands were shaking slightly. This wasn't just browsing anymore. This was stepping directly into something dangerous. The payment confirmed. The page refreshed. A new message appeared. Transaction received. Below it was a chat box. Someone typed almost immediately. Seller. You want private meat? I swallowed. Thousands of people were watching. No, I typed. Need details first. The typing bubble appeared. Then another message. Seller. Location arranged after payment. My heart was pounding now. The stream chat started suggesting things. Ask where. Stall them. Get them talking, I typed again. How does delivery work? The response came quickly. Seller. Depends on region. Another message followed. Where are you located? My brain raced. If I told them my real location, that could be dangerous. But lying might make them suspicious. I glanced at the chat. People were spamming suggestions. Don't tell them. Make them talk first. Ask how many they have. So I typed something else. How many girls do you have available? There was a longer pause this time. Nearly a minute. The chat grew quiet. Then the reply appeared. Seller. Many. Another message followed. Why are you asking questions? My heart thumped harder. They were getting suspicious. I needed to change direction. I'm buying for group, I typed. The chat exploded with laughing emojis and shocked reactions. But the seller replied quickly, Seller. You want multiple? Yes, I wrote. Another pause. Then the seller sent something unexpected. A file download. I hesitated before clicking it. The chat started flying again. Don't download. Virus. Be careful. But curiosity won. I downloaded the file and opened it in a secure viewer. It was a spreadsheet. Rows and rows of names. Photos, prices, dates. My stomach dropped. There were dozens of girls listed, maybe more. The chat slowed again as everyone realized what we were looking at. This is huge, I said quietly. Another message appeared in the seller chat. Seller. You pick. We arrange. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I looked closer at the spreadsheet. Each listing had a code next to it. Some also had location tags, cities, states. My heart started racing again. This isn't just one place, I said. This is a network. The chat exploded. Screenshot everything. Save it. Call FBI. I started downloading everything I could from the page. Every file, every listing, every image. Then something unexpected happened. A new message appeared in the seller chat. Seller. Why so many downloads? My stomach dropped. They were watching. Reviewing options, I typed quickly. Another pause. Then the seller sent a final message. Seller. You law enforcement? The chat exploded again. Don't answer. Stall them. Buy time. My brain raced. No, I typed. But the response came instantly. Seller. Your stream. My blood went cold. They knew. The chat froze. Someone typed, Wait, how do they know? Another message appeared from the seller. Seller. We see thousands watching. My heart pounded in my ears. Then a final message appeared. Seller. You made mistake. The entire website suddenly froze. The page refreshed. Every listing disappeared. The marketplace was gone. Just a blank black screen. For a moment, I sat there in silence. Then the chat started exploding again. What just happened? Did they shut it down? You scared them. I leaned forward, breathing hard. They saw the stream, I said. Which means... I paused. They're watching us too. The viewer count climbed even higher. 15,000 people now. And that's when something even more unbelievable happened. A message appeared in my email inbox from a government address. The subject line read, We need the files you downloaded. The sender? Federal Bureau of Investigation. My heart pounded as I opened the message. It was short. We have been monitoring the site you accessed tonight. Your live stream forced them to shut down operations. Send us everything you saved immediately. I looked back at the camera. Thousands of viewers watching. Guys, I said slowly, I think we just blew up a trafficking network. The chat exploded. No way. This is insane. You actually did it. I zipped every file I downloaded and sent them to the address. A few minutes later, another email arrived. Files received, then another. Multiple suspects already under investigation. I leaned back in my chair, still trying to process everything that had just happened. Less than 2 hours earlier, I was just a bored guy doing a late-night stream. Now, the viewer counter showed over 20,000 people. And somewhere out there, an entire dark web operation had just been exposed. I looked into the camera. Well, I said, I guess that's one way to grow a channel. I took down a whole dark web operation, part 1. My name is Daniel Mercer, and this story starts in 1976, when I was 10 years old. My sister Emily was 8. We grew up in a small town outside Cleveland, Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew each other. Kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on, neighbors left their doors unlocked, and nothing bad ever seemed to happen. At least that's what we thought. Emily and I were close growing up. We shared a bedroom for years, built blanket forts in the living room, and spent summers running through the woods behind our house pretending we were explorers. She was loud and fearless. I was quiet and cautious. If someone had told me back then that one afternoon would change everything, I wouldn't have believed them. But it did. It was October 14th, 1976. A Thursday. Emily was walking home from school with 2 of her friends. Their route was the same one they had taken 100 times before, down Maple Street, past the old gas station, then across the small park near our neighborhood. Her friend said a white van pulled up near the curb. A man leaned out the window and asked if they knew where the library was. When Emily stepped closer to point down the road, the door slid open, and she was gone. Just like that. The entire town searched for weeks. Police, volunteers, helicopters. My parents barely slept. Flyers with Emily's photo were everywhere. Telephone poles, grocery stores, gas stations. But nothing ever came of it. No witnesses, no leads, no ransom, no body. After a year, the police stopped actively investigating. After 5 years, people stopped asking about it. But in my house, it never ended. My parents were never the same. My mom kept Emily's room exactly the way it had been the day she disappeared. My dad became quiet and distant. And me? I became obsessed with understanding how people get away with things. I spent my teenage years reading about criminals, unsolved cases, and investigations. By the time I was in college in the late 1980s, something new had started appearing in the world. Computers, the early internet, bulletin board systems, primitive networks connecting people across the world. I was fascinated. While other people used computers for games or schoolwork, I became obsessed with the idea that information could be hidden inside networks. And if something could be hidden, it could be found. By the early 1990s, I was teaching myself programming, networking, security, encryption. Not because I wanted a career in tech, because I wanted to understand how criminals communicated. Years passed. The internet exploded. The world changed. But my mission never did. Every time a new technology appeared, I asked myself the same question. How could someone hide something illegal here? And eventually, I found the answer. In the early 2000s, something called the dark web became widely known. Encrypted networks, hidden marketplaces, anonymous communication. Most people only heard rumors about it. But I dove into it completely. Forums, encrypted servers, hidden communities. And the deeper I went, the more I realized something terrifying. There were entire networks of criminals operating online. Some sold stolen data, some sold illegal goods, and some did far worse. The deeper I dug, the more familiar certain patterns began to look. Transportation routes, fake businesses, shipping operations. The same kinds of methods used by traffickers back in the 1970s. Only now they were operating on a global scale. And one night in 2019, while analyzing a hidden marketplace server, I saw something that made my hands start shaking. A database entry, old records, archived transactions. Most people wouldn't have noticed anything special. But one line caught my eye, a shipment entry. Date, October 1976, location, Ohio. Description, young female transfer. My heart started pounding. I opened the archived file. Inside were scanned documents, old shipping logs that had been digitized years later. Names, codes, routes, and then one handwritten note in the margin, 3 letters. E.M. Emily Mercer. My sister. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. The realization slowly sinking in. The people who took my sister had never stopped. They had simply adapted, moved their operations online, and somehow their old records had ended up buried inside a modern dark web network. That night, I made a decision, not to report it. Not yet. Instead, I spent the next 6 years doing something else. I built a plan to dismantle the entire network from the inside, piece by piece, server by server, account by account. Because if Emily's name was in those records, there was only one possibility left. Somewhere in the world, my sister might still be alive. And if she was, I was going to find her. For 6 years, I didn't tell anyone what I had found. Not the police, not investigators, not even my parents. After discovering Emily's initials in those archived records, I knew one thing immediately. If the network that took her was still operating decades later, they would be extremely careful. Reporting it too early would only scare them into disappearing again. And I had spent my entire life learning how criminals hide. I wasn't about to make that mistake. Instead, I started doing what I had spent 40 years preparing for. I went deeper. The network I had stumbled onto wasn't a single website. It was a layered system. Private forums, encrypted chat rooms, dark web marketplaces that constantly changed addresses. And behind those were servers hidden through multiple countries. Whoever ran it understood technology very well. But they had one weakness: time. The organization had existed for decades, which meant pieces of their old infrastructure were still buried in forgotten backups and abandoned servers. And that's where I focused. Over the next few years, I built scripts that crawled hidden networks, searching for fragments of archived data tied to the old shipping records I had discovered. Names, account numbers, transaction logs. I followed every lead. Sometimes the trail went cold for weeks. Sometimes it led to entire databases. Little by little, the picture started forming. The network had originally started as a smuggling ring in the 1970s. They moved stolen goods through shipping routes along the East Coast. Eventually, the operation evolved into something far worse: human trafficking. By the early 2000s, they had transitioned to operating almost entirely online. Private buyers, encrypted payments, transportation arranged through shell companies. And the more I uncovered, the clearer something became. This wasn't just a small criminal group. It was a global operation. But none of that mattered to me. Because buried inside those old records was the one thing I had been searching for my entire life: evidence that Emily had survived. It happened late one night in 2024. I had been tracking a chain of encrypted accounts tied to an old logistics company used by the network in the 1980s. Most of the records were useless: shipping manifests, old payment transfers. But then I found something different: a modern entry, a profile. It was hidden behind several layers of encryption. But after hours of work, I finally cracked the access. Inside was a list of individuals connected to the network's past operations. Some were labeled inactive. Others had notes like deceased or unknown status. But one entry stopped my heart: EM. The initials were the same as the old record. The description was brief: transferred, Europe, 1983. My hands started shaking. Emily had been 8 when she disappeared. In 1983, she would have been 15. Alive. She had been alive. I dug deeper into the record. The file had been updated several times over the decades. Most of the notes were administrative: location transfers, ownership changes. Then one update from 2001 caught my attention. Released. Released. That meant something. People inside trafficking networks aren't released unless something changes. I followed the data trail further. The last update in the file was dated 2012, and attached to it was something I never expected to see: a photograph. My heart felt like it stopped. The woman in the picture was standing outside a small stone house. She looked to be in her 40s. Dark hair, same shape of eyes, same small scar above her eyebrow from when we were kids and she fell off her bike. I hadn't seen my sister in almost 50 years, but I knew instantly. It was Emily. She was alive. And the location tag beneath the photo said one word: Portugal. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the screen. My entire life had been built around one question: what happened to Emily? Now I finally had an answer. But finding her was only part of the story. The network that had taken her was still operating, still moving people, still hiding behind encrypted systems. And if I wanted Emily to truly be safe, I needed to finish what I started. Over the next year, I executed the plan I had been building for 6 years. The key to dismantling a criminal network like that isn't attacking it directly. It's destroying its infrastructure, servers, payment channels, communication systems. I started quietly. First, I infiltrated their private forums. Using stolen credentials from old database leaks, I created a buyer account that slowly gained trust inside the network. It took months. Careful conversations, fake transactions. But eventually, I gained access to the intercommunication channels. That's where the real information lived. Server addresses, transportation routes, contact lists. Once I had those, I began mapping the entire network. Every server, every administrator, every payment wallet. The structure looked like a spider web spread across dozens of countries. But every web has anchor points. And once you find those, you can tear it apart. The first server went down in March 2025. A hidden marketplace hosting private auctions suddenly disappeared overnight. Users thought it was a routine shutdown. Dark web markets vanish all the time. But that was only the beginning. Over the next 3 months, more pieces started collapsing. Encrypted chat servers, backup marketplaces, payment processors. One by one, they vanished. The administrators inside the network began panicking. I watched their messages in real time. Server offline. Who shut down Node 3? Move operations to backup. Every time they tried to relocate, I was already waiting. Because by then I knew their entire infrastructure. In August 2025, I triggered the final phase. I anonymously sent everything I had collected to international law enforcement. Server logs, user identities, transaction histories. Evidence linking dozens of individuals to trafficking operations going back decades. Within days, arrests began happening across multiple countries. Germany, Spain, Poland, the Netherlands. Authorities seized servers and shut down the last remaining marketplaces. The network that had existed for almost 50 years collapsed in less than 2 weeks. And for the first time since 1976, the people responsible for Emily's disappearance were finally gone. But I still hadn't done the most important part, finding her. In January 2026, I boarded a plane to Portugal. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't spoken to my sister in 50 years. She had built an entire life without us. The address from the photo led to a small coastal town. Quiet. Beautiful. Nothing like the dark places I had spent years navigating online. I walked down a narrow street lined with stone houses until I found the one from the photograph. My hands were shaking as I knocked on the door. Footsteps approached inside. Then the door opened. The woman standing there looked at me for a moment, confused. Then her eyes widened. She covered her mouth. "Danny?" she whispered. No one had called me that since we were kids. I felt tears forming before I could stop them. "Hi, Em." We stood there for a long moment before she stepped forward and hugged me. Emily had built a life. A husband, 2 children, even a grandchild. She had eventually escaped the people who controlled her when she was young and managed to disappear into a new country. She never tried to contact us because she believed the people who took her might still be watching. For almost 50 years, she had lived quietly, trying to stay invisible. Until the day I knocked on her door. 2 months later, Emily came back to the United States for the first time since she was 8 years old. In April 2026, we stood together in the same house where we grew up. Our parents were gone by then. But their house was still standing. And for the first time since that day in 1976, our family was whole again. People sometimes ask me if taking down that network was worth the 6 years it took. The truth is, it took my entire life. But when I see my sister sitting at the kitchen table laughing with her grandchildren, I know the answer. It absolutely was. My name is Lucas Hale, and this story starts in 1996, when I was 12 years old. Back then, the internet was still new. Most people didn't really understand it yet. To adults, computers were just expensive machines for typing documents or sending emails. But to kids like me, the internet felt like something bigger. It felt like an entirely new world. My parents had just bought our first computer that summer. It sat in the corner of the living room on a small wooden desk. Every night when I connected to the internet, the modem would scream and buzz like some strange robot trying to talk. I loved that sound. Once the connection went through, suddenly I could talk to people anywhere in the world. Chat rooms, message boards, early websites. It felt endless. I spent hours exploring. Most kids my age were outside playing basketball or riding bikes, but I preferred the computer. Online, people cared about what I knew. I was good with technology, even back then. I figured things out quickly: how programs worked, how networks connected, how people communicated through systems that most adults barely understood. That's how I ended up spending so much time in online chat rooms. And that's where I met someone named Raven. At first, Raven seemed like just another person in the room. They talked about computers, programming, security, things I was already curious about. They told me I was smart for my age, said I asked better questions than most adults they talked to online. When you're 12 years old, hearing something like that means a lot, especially when most people around you treat you like a kid who doesn't understand anything. Raven started messaging me privately after a few weeks. We talked about hacking, about how computer systems worked, about ways people could break into networks. They showed me small tricks. Nothing illegal, just basic computer stuff. But it felt exciting. Like I was learning secrets most people didn't know. At the time, I didn't realize how strange it was that an adult was spending so much time talking to a kid online. I didn't think about that at all. I just thought I had found someone who understood me. Eventually, Raven told me something that changed everything. They said they lived only a few hours away from my town. They told me they ran a small computer group where people met in person to talk about programming and security. They said kids who understood technology were rare, and they invited me to come see it. Looking back now, the warning signs were obvious. But when you're 12, you don't see things the way adults do. I told them I couldn't travel alone. Raven said that was okay. They suggested we meet somewhere closer first, just to talk about computers. They said they could show me equipment and software that most people had never seen. I still remember the day we agreed to meet. It was a Saturday afternoon. My parents thought I was going to the local library to use the computers there. Instead, I walked down the street to a small parking lot near a grocery store where Raven said they would meet me. A dark van pulled into the lot. The door opened. A man stepped out. He looked normal enough. Jeans, baseball cap, glasses. "Lucas?" he asked. I nodded. "You must be Raven," I said. He smiled. "Yeah, good to finally meet you." I remember feeling nervous, but not scared, just unsure. He told me to come look at something in the back of the van. He said he had brought some computer equipment to show me. And that's when everything went wrong. I barely had time to react before someone grabbed my arm. There was another person inside the van. The door slammed shut. And suddenly I realized something terrible. This wasn't a meeting. It was a trap. The van drove away before anyone in the parking lot noticed what had happened. I shouted. I tried to fight. But I was 12 years old. And they were adults. Within minutes, the town I had grown up in disappeared behind us. That was the last time I saw my home for 3 years. The place they took me wasn't a basement or a cage like people imagine in movies. It was something stranger. An old building far away from any city. Inside were rooms filled with computers, servers, wires running across the floor. It looked almost like a strange office. Except I wasn't allowed to leave. At first I thought they wanted money, or that they would call my parents. But days passed, then weeks. No one contacted my family. Instead, they made me sit in front of computers. They had realized something quickly. I was good with them, really good, and they wanted to use that. I didn't understand everything they were doing back then, but I understood enough. They were running illegal operations online, stealing data, breaking into systems, selling information. The early days of what people would later call the dark web. Back then it didn't have a name yet, but it was already there. Hidden networks, private servers, places where criminals communicated away from public websites. And they were using kids like me to help run parts of it. Not because we were criminals, but because we were curious and easy to manipulate. For the first year, I was terrified all the time. But slowly, something changed. I started learning, watching what they did, understanding their systems, understanding their mistakes. And the more I learned, the more I realized something important. These people thought they controlled everything, but they didn't understand technology the way they thought they did. I did. By the time I was 14, I knew their systems better than they did. Their passwords, their servers, their network connections. And that's when I started planning something they never expected. Escape. I didn't rush it. I knew I only had one chance. If I failed, I might never get another. So I waited. I watched. I learned. I mapped their entire network in my head, where their servers connected, which computers controlled which systems, which doors in the building were locked electronically, which cameras were connected to which networks. By the time I turned 15, I was ready. One night while they were busy running operations in another room, I used one of the computers to quietly disable the building's security system. Then I shut down their internal network, all the cameras, all the alarms, everything. The building went dark. Confused voices echoed through the halls. They thought the system had crashed. They didn't realize someone inside had done it. And while they were trying to fix the computers, I walked out the back door, just like that. 3 years of captivity ended in a single moment. I ran through the woods behind the building until my legs gave out. Eventually, I found a road. A truck driver picked me up and took me to the nearest police station. My parents had spent 3 years believing they might never see me again. But somehow, I made it home. Most people would try to forget something like that. Move on, live a normal life. But I couldn't. Because during those 3 years, I had seen things, learned things, about networks, about criminals hiding behind computers, about systems no one else even knew existed yet. And I realized something. The people who took me were still out there, still running their operations, still hiding behind screens. So while the rest of the world slowly discovered the internet, I spent the next 20 years mastering it. Because someday, I planned to find them again. And when I did, they wouldn't even know I was watching. Most people assume that when something terrible happens to you as a kid, you either break or you try to forget it. I did neither. When I finally made it home at 15, everyone thought the worst part of my life was over. The police investigated the place where I'd been held. By the time they got there, it was already abandoned. The building was empty. Every computer was gone. Whoever had taken me had packed up and disappeared overnight, like they knew the clock had started ticking. To the authorities, the case slowly went cold. But to me, it had just started. Because during those 3 years I had been forced to work on their systems, I had learned something incredibly valuable: how they operated, the structure of their networks, the way they hid their activity, and most importantly, how sloppy they really were. The world didn't know it yet, but the internet was about to explode. In the late 90s and early 2000s, everything started moving online. Banking, shopping, communication, government systems. And criminals moved with it. But most of them were amateurs. The people who had taken me had been ahead of their time. They had already built hidden networks years before the world even understood what the dark web was. So instead of trying to erase the past, I used it. While other kids my age were figuring out college or careers, I was learning everything I could about networks, encryption, and cybersecurity. Programming languages, server architecture, security vulnerabilities. If a system existed, I wanted to understand how it worked, and more importantly, how it could be broken. By my early 20s, I was already working in cybersecurity under different names for different companies. On paper, I was just another network security specialist helping corporations protect their systems. But privately, I was searching. The internet had grown into something enormous by then. Billions of users, millions of servers, entire hidden layers most people never saw. Somewhere inside that mess, the people who took me were still operating. I knew it. Because criminals rarely retire. They adapt, they move, they rebuild, and eventually they make mistakes. It took me 17 years to find the first real clue. 17 years of digging through hidden forums, encrypted markets, and private servers buried deep in anonymous networks. Then, one night, while analyzing traffic patterns on a hidden marketplace, I noticed something familiar. A structure. The way the network routed data between servers. It was almost identical to the system the people who kidnapped me had used back in the 90s. Same architecture, same security shortcuts, different names, but the same fingerprints. My heart started beating faster. I had finally found them. Most people think hackers break systems loudly. Explosions of code, firewalls collapsing. The truth is much quieter. Real infiltration is about patience. You don't smash the door down. You walk through it slowly while no one notices. It took me nearly 2 more years to fully map their network. Dozens of servers across multiple countries. Encrypted marketplaces. Private communication channels. Financial accounts hidden through layers of cryptocurrency transactions. They had built an entire ecosystem. And just like before, they believed no one could see it. But they were wrong, because I was already inside, watching everything. The final step wasn't revenge. It was something much more effective. Exposure. Over several months, I quietly collected everything. Server logs, user identities, financial transactions, messages, proof of operations going back decades. Then one night I did something simple. I sent all of it to international law enforcement agencies across multiple countries. Thousands of files. Enough evidence to collapse their entire network. Within weeks, the arrests started happening. Germany, France, Canada, the United States. Servers were seized. Marketplaces disappeared. The operation that had hidden in the shadows of the internet for over 20 years collapsed almost overnight. And the people responsible for what happened to me were finally gone. After that, I disappeared too. Not because I was afraid, because I was finished. The world had changed a lot since 1996. The internet was no longer a mysterious frontier. It was everywhere. In every home, every phone, every government system. But the dark corners of it still existed. They always will. Criminals never disappear completely. They just hide better. So I decided to do something different. I left the cities, left the offices, left the entire world I had spent decades inside. Now, I live somewhere most people would never find. A remote stretch of land deep in the wilderness, surrounded by forests and mountains. No neighbors, no streetlights, no one asking questions. Most people who pass through the area think it's just empty land. They have no idea what's hidden there. Because inside my cabin, the walls are lined with screens, satellite connections, encrypted systems, networks running quietly day and night. I don't work for anyone anymore. No corporations, no governments. But I still watch. The internet never sleeps, and neither do the shadows inside it. Sometimes late at night I scroll through hidden networks and watch new marketplaces try to appear. New criminals trying to build the same kind of operations the people who took me once ran. They think they're invisible. They think no one can see what they're doing. But I see everything. Because the biggest mistake those men ever made was teaching a 12-year-old kid how their world worked. And now, I never stop watching. And that's where tonight's story ends. I hope you enjoyed the video and the story we shared tonight on Whispers After Midnight. Just remember, the internet has a lot of dark corners. And the dark web is one place you definitely shouldn't mess around with, unless you're ready to find things you can't unsee. If you liked this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if there's a specific type of story you want to hear, dark web encounters, creepy jobs, strange neighbors, haunted places, leave a comment below. Your idea might become the next story featured on the channel. Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, the best stories are always told after midnight.